Right, so we're live. Gary, 5-star Sykes, one of my favourite fighters from yesteryear. ABA champion, two-time British champion, English title, couple of prize fighters, 4 for the Commonwealth. We're due to fight Adrian Broner. You've been in a couple of my books, Gary. Paul Sykes, what was the other one? Tales of Pugilism. So you've been over to my house a few times. You've had a few palmos. So you've been retired a couple of years now, Gary. So how's life since you've hung up the hung up the gloves? A lot of people ask me. They say, Jamie, who's them gloves on your back wall? So, hang on. Them gloves were the actual fight gloves from when you lost your British title to Gary Buckland. So I don't suppose they had a lot of momentum for you, but they were raised gloves, the only gloves that Nassim Ahmed used to wear, and the nickname is nose breakers, clues in the name. So how's Gary Sykes?
Well, I had a bit of a bad time after I retired because all that routine and schedule, I just lost it all. So I went on beer a bit and I lost my way a bit.
Yeah. You retired in 2016, I think it was. Yeah, I remember you being at my house and you went for a jog, and you just said, you know what, it's just not in me anymore. And to quote you, Gary, I always remember you saying to me for one of my books a couple of years ago, boxing's a very unforgiving sport. You were due to fight Sean Dodd for the Commonwealth title or something like that.
Yeah, well.
And how was retirement, Gary? I mean, did you just wake up one morning and just think it's not there anymore?
No, I was supposed to go on a jog one morning and I didn't get up for it. I just couldn't be bothered, and I realised my heart wasn't in it.
Was it hard to accept, or by that time you were, just trying to think, you were probably 34? I couldn't believe that. I remember having a bet on you for when you fought Luke Campbell, and the bookies gave me something like 11-1, and I was like, that is crazy odds, because Gary Sykes on form. Obviously, you beat Andy Crawler twice. You beat some top names like Tommy Coyle, Femi Fermentola, who was a lead lad you fought, Carl Johansson. You're mixing some proper class. I think it probably was the right time, Gary, because a lot of boxers have went on. And, what you said to me was, I never wanted to be someone like for instance, Liam Walsh. You had the Liam Walsh fight in 2014, but a few years earlier, you wanted the fight, but he didn't want it. But when he seen you on the decline, he thought, you know what? And boxing very much is particularly about timing, isn't it?
Yeah. You came to see a few of my fights. Like, we wanted that fight a lot earlier with Liam Walsh. But I think they took it at the right time because I was on the decline.
I mean, what was it like to, people say the best belt, right, it's like people say the FA Cup is the greatest trophy in the world because it's the oldest competition. And England is a home of football. So the Lord Marquess of Queensberry rules. Yes, the WBC belt is the best, but the greatest belt in like the most famous, beautiful looking belt was that Lord Lonsdale belt, which you managed to win twice. They didn't let you keep it, although I don't think that was right, because I think you're more than enough done enough. And but what was it like when you won that British title, Gary?
Oh, it was amazing. Best feeling ever. Yeah.
And to win it twice?
Yeah. Winning my own town of Dewsbury on the second time.
Right, so that was extra special.
Yeah.
So, obviously you've been through this bad time now, and you've come out with the other end, Gary. You see yourself maybe getting back into boxing then?
Yeah, I want to. I need to get down to the gym and just help him with his, because he's got loads of kids coming through. So I need to help him with him.
What gym's that?
Dickies. It's where Josh Warren does his strength training.
Oh, I was there last year. I've known Josh over 10 years now. Good friend of yours. He calls me Buffalo Bill. I know when you come to my house a couple of years back, he said, Gary, you'll probably get bummed and killed and all that. But do you know what the sad thing is, though? Josh come that little bit later for you.
Yeah.
Because, you were British champion. And obviously, when you were kind of finishing, that was when Josh was coming through. And I just think Josh would have been such a great influence for you to keep away from the bad things. Do you think I'm right?
Yeah, definitely. Because he's teetotal and everything, and I'd have followed his footsteps and I'd have gotten all his shows. So yeah, definitely that. I think that as well.
Yeah, two Yorkshire lads as well. Yorkshire boxing. Paul Sykes. I spoke to your coach, God rest him, a couple of years back. What was he called?
Keith Tate.
Yeah, he was in actual fact Paul Sykes' childhood friend, and the amount of people that have actually thought you were related to Paul Sykes, because you're a boxer, you live pretty close by. Paul Sykes in Yorkshire, obviously, the film and the documentary is going to happen next year. I think you've read all my books, Gary, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on Sykesy
then? I've got my own opinion because what people have told me he was a bully and a nasty man.
Yeah, but one hell of a personality.
Oh yeah, I love watching that Paul Sykes at large.
I mean, do you still watch it?
Yeah, I can word it word for word.
Right. So, yeah, when you say boxing, training kids. Gary, I think a cracking job for you would be one-to-one training. I see people in the boxing world who I wouldn't let them train my dog. And you were obviously a two-time British champion. Is that not something you fancy?
Yeah. I'm gonna get into it in New Year.
Yeah. So what's life like for Gary now then? What do you do on your daily basis?
Nothing at the moment. I'm just stopped drinking. So I'm gonna get my life back on track. Because since I retired, I lost my job, lost my driving license, lost my missus, lost the house we were buying, so I lost everything. But I'm just trying to rebuild myself now.
Yeah, there's a saying, Gary, in life, which is, I think it was Oscar Wilde, and it said, even though you could be in the gutter, you can still be looking up at the stars. And we've known each other a long time, mate, and I could see the way you were heading before you got there. To put it on the bright side, though, it would make one hell of a chapter in a book. Just so happens I know an author as well. So, Adrian Broner, Gary, one of my favourite stories, I think you told me years ago, you'd been out having a drink, and your coach, I think you were at a drink, and your coach come to your house and said, Gary, listen, you want to fight Adrian? Do you want to fight Adrian Broner on the undercard of Lamont Peterson against Amir Khan?" And you were like, yeah. So you took the Amir Khan fight, and obviously it didn't happen because Amir Khan failed a drugs test. But Adrian Broner, I mean, it was just before he fought Gavin Reed. But the next morning, you actually woke up and thought, oh, it was all a dream.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute, I just got to block a troll. Yeah. So a few questions for you, Gary. Gary comes across as an extremely down-to-earth, genuine guy. You are no humbles and graces, and you always have time out for people. You know, I've seen you. I've been in your company when people have asked you for signed photos and not. So Tinker McFarley says, "What's Gary's opinion on Paul Sykes' skills as a boxer? What's your opinion of him, Gary, on like a pugilistic style?"
Yeah, he was alright. It was a bit raw. The fight was a bit raw, but the fight was alright. Pretty good boxer, but he just didn't have no heart, did he?
He turned his back, and essentially that's what ruined him because yes, he did have one more fight, but it was in Africa, and in the British scene, 1979, 1980, he never lived it down. And when they used to lock him up, the first thing the Screws would shout to him was, "John L. Gardner says good night, you cowardly bastard." And you know, in his book, he said, "I wasn't turning my back; I was turning to shout to my corner." I mean, I've watched that fight over 100 times. I've watched it with John L. Gardner. I've spoken to some of the cornermen. He turned his back on it, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was running out of gas.
Oh, million percent. John Spenceley said to me, who was his coach, he said Paul expected the fight to be over in 3 rounds, and when he was still there in the 4th, he'd run out of ideas. But Richard Brown's asking you a question, Gary. Who was the best person you ever fought?
It's a toss up between, there's 3 really. There's Luke Campbell, there's Liam Walsh and Terry Flanagan. It's between them 3.
Terry Flanagan, which you lost in the prize fighter final, was it? And a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of people in the game who said that was a. If anyone watches that on YouTube, if you watch a fight, that was very dubious decision. Obviously, it was no shame because he went on to become a world champion himself.
Yeah. I thought I won that fight. 76% of Sky viewers thought I'd won it. 24% thought he'd won it. So yeah, that could have catapulted me to bigger things.
Yeah. I mean, was the world title ever spoken of, Gary, for you?
Yeah, against Adrian Broner for WBO title.
Oh, of course. How do you think you'd have done looking back? I mean, he was one hell of a personality.
Yeah.
Adrian Broner, what would have been your thoughts? What would have been your tactics in the fight?
Well, I was training through night for that. I was training at 2 o'clock in the morning to get my body acclimatized. And I trained the best I've ever trained for any fights. It's a shame that I couldn't have got in there and done it.
Yeah, it's fate. You know, I mean, the fight was called off. Actually coming up for 10 years this year. I think it was in April. Or was it 11 years? What year are we in now? I think it was 11. I can't remember. 12 years? So sorry, 10 years this year. That's right. But no fault of your own. But you know, who was the best you ever sparred, Gary?
Probably Flanagan.
Who?
Probably Flanagan. We used to have some right spars. Amir Khan, probably.
Yeah, I mean, you were Amir Khan's roommate, weren't you?
Yeah.
So the question someone's asking: who was the best left-handed? So who was the best ever southpaw you ever fought, Gary?
Probably Campbell.
Right. Was he that good? Obviously, you fought him on the back of his Olympic gold. He was unbeaten. Yes, you'd seen better days.
Yeah, we're past it then. I thought we're past it. Because I sparred him a few years earlier, and I sparred really well.
Yeah.
Did a good spar.
So, Gary, what's the plans for the future then? I mean, obviously you're going to get back into boxing, but have you thought about writing your own biography or becoming a pundit or anything? Do you know what I mean? I mean, obviously I'm doing Junior Witter's book this year. Do you know Junior?
Yeah.
Right. South Yorkshire, I think he's Snazzy. Well, Bradford he's from, but he lives in Rotherham. Did you ever spar with him, or it'd have been a bit too heavy for you, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and it was before my time.
Right. So Richard Brown is asking, how fast was Amir?
Rapid, really fast.
Was he?
Yeah. We used to have some good
So how do you think? Sorry, go on.
We used to have some good spars on the England squad, and
yeah,
I sparred him as well as a pro.
How do you think he's going to get on against Kell Brook?
I think he'll be in me.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got more miles in the tank than Kell Brook. I think Kell's shot to bits. Did Gary follow Prince Nassim Ahmed in the 90s? What got you into boxing, Gary? Because you were relatively quite a late starter, weren't you? 15?
Yeah. My next door neighbour were going to boxing, and I was knocking about with him, so I decided to go with him.
Right. And I know you box for England. You've travelled the world, so you've done extremely well as an amateur. But you fought a lot of kind of amateurs who actually went on to do really well. Do you want to name some for the people who are watching?
I beat John Murray twice.
Yeah.
Who else? Amateurs.
Stephen Smith.
America. No, I never boxed Stephen.
Kevin Mitchell, was it?
No, I didn't box him neither.
You've told me a load before. I know there's an absolute stacks full of like Robin Deacon.
Yeah, beat him.
Yeah. Any others?
Can't think of any.
Richard Brown's asked, ever thought of going into the BKB?
No, I'm too good looking for that.
Do you know something? Seriously, like I had.
Still.
Seriously. Go on. I boxed for years as a kid, but I would never ever fancy that. And it's a rough. I mean, do you know what? It's like it's a bit too extreme. To me, boxing's a skill. It's an art. You can be a good boxer without actually being a good fighter. You know, I remember sparring people as a kid, and I couldn't fight them outside, but in the ring made them look stupid. And I think when people like bare knuckle boxing, yeah, it's a bit too violent and thuggish for my liking. You know, it takes away the skill. You know, like Floyd Mayweather would lose a lot of fights in the fighting like a 10-foot hay bales. So that takes a lot of a skilled operator like yourself. Yeah, so it's not, and I agree with that comment, Gary. you were too good looking for that, because you were a bit of a spice boy, really, in your time. When there was people like you, Isham Pickering, Robin Reed, you know, that kind of people who didn't really look like boxers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to get my face bashed up. That's why I won't do it.
Yeah. So I'm just. Who was the best female boxer, Gary? And I was asking.
Probably Katie Taylor. I'd go
Did
with.
you ever spar with her?
No.
Right.
She's saving camera.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when I was last with you, Gary, I'd noticed you put a lot of weight on, but it wasn't like you were on the Jamie Boyle diet. You were eating palmos, although you do love a good palmo. But you were bulking up. Are you still going to be doing that, or is that something that I think you got. I mean, you used to fight at like 9 stone 4, and you got to like 13.5 stone.
No, I got to 12-10. But yeah,
Sure?
I was doing a lot of weight. I was doing a lot of weight saying. But I've
Right.
eased off over Christmas, so I'm gonna get back into it.
Right. And are you still on Dewsbury Moor then?
Yeah.
Because there's a fantastic story, Gary, and if you ever do your biography, 2008, so what we're on 14 years ago, just around now actually, I think it was February, the world, the eyes of the world were all on Dewsbury Moor. Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah. Shannon Matthews going missing. Well,
is that right though? Go on.
I was gonna wear a T-shirt saying "Find Shannon, tool number 5." She got found just before, so I mean, but
that's mental. So did the mum actually ask you to do that?
you know the dad did, Craig Niam.
The paedophile one. That gets even better. So I take it they've gone now. Are they never seen other?
No, off the state.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I tell you what though, do you know when Paul Sykes got barred out of Wakefield? He was barred out of everywhere, and what he used to start doing, he actually went through to Dewsbury. And I remember speaking to a guy a couple of years back, and he said, "Oh, I used to drink with Paul." And I said, "All right, Paul, how come you barred in? How come you're drinking in Dewsbury?" And he said, "Oh, I'm not allowed in Wakefield. I'm barred out." And he said, "Why? What part? Which pubs are you barred out in?" Thinking he was going to say like the Elephant and Castle and that, and he just stood there straight face and he just went, "All of it." So, have you got any tales? Did you know Paul Sykes was always in Dewsbury?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, seriously, there's a lot of people who remember him from his time. And what's Dewsbury like, Gary? What kind of place? Is it a big place or?
No, it's quite small. It's run down now though. There's loads of foreign town.
Is there any other famous people? Is there any other famous people from that apart from you?
Yeah, guy out of Star Trek.
Right. Any others?
No, not really.
Just Shannon Matthews.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Andel. Richard Brown. So, what was the hardest part for you, Gary, to actually be a boxer? What was the hardest part? What was it you struggled on?
The diet were pretty hard, but just all the training. Cause, when I did something, I did put all my heart into it. So when I was training hard all the time.
Yeah, I think it's something which has been absent in your life, Gary. And when you retired, it was like,
yeah.
Do you know what? You're a bit like me. Well, obviously, I know you are because we've spent a lot of time together. But I'm an addict in life. So when I was young, playing football, or I get addicted to everything. And what I do now, I get addicted to work. So I channel all my effort into working 7 days a week. And that's kind of keeps me on a straight and narrow, because when I don't, we've exchanged a few stories, and I'm as crazy as you, or been as daft as you. But it's like I'm aware of what my situations, so I just kind of keep myself into work, and I think that's what you need to do, Gary. Is if anyone's watching this, Gary, and wants to reach out, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Twitter or Facebook.
Right. Do you want to give? I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put your links in this bio in this video when we're finished. You heard of the Madhouse in Leeds, Jamie? That was where Terry Mitchell had a fight with Paul Sykes in 1979. It's closed down now, apparently, Luddy. Any more questions for Gary? Do you want to talk about anything, Gary?
No, I'm all right, mate.
So, new year, new start. What's the plans then?
Stay off drink, get myself a nice job, and just build my life back up.
Yeah, just small steps, mate. You need to come and hang around with me for a few days, and we'll just eat a few parmos.
Yeah, will do.
So, any other questions, guys? Josh Warrington, just a couple of questions, Gary, before we go. Can he get the world title back this year?
Yeah, I think he can.
Do you still see much of him?
No, yeah, before his last fight, he didn't come down to the gym to do his strength training. So that might have been a factor in why he lost. Because
he never trained with you?
No, he never came to do his strength training, conditioning training.
No, but if you're watching, Josh, because I'm going to send you this, if you'd have trained with Gary Sykes, you wouldn't have lost that fight. Because Josh has got the same sense of humour as us. I mean, the last time I seen you, Gary, I think it was Josh's, about 2 years ago. It was one of Josh's fights, because he used to spend a lot of time. It was just right after he retired. But so who was the best pound for pound boxer in your opinion, Gary? Richard Daskin?
I think Lomachenko, but he went up too high. He shouldn't have gone up to lightweight.
Yeah, I remember you talking to me, Gary. Or was it Rick Gondon? You said, imagine sparring with him. He'd make you look a right C next year. Them two would actually make you look like you've never put a pair of gloves on, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Do you plan to open your own gym, Gary?
In a few, maybe, yeah.
I mean, I've said to you for probably the last 7 years, Summer, you need to make a business page on Facebook, and you'd have flocks of people coming to train with you. Your knowledge, your wisdom in your training and your diets, Gary, would be invaluable. It would just be, because you've lived there and you've got to a level which, not many people can talk about. Yeah, Gary indulged in a lot of weight training. Yeah, he's already discussed that. So, no, do you know what, Gary? I think you've really weathered the storm, mate, because I've seen you in your extremely bad times. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't nice to watch, mate. My wife's like your biggest fan in the world. Thinks you're great. Obviously you've been through ours a few times, and but at the end of the day, people can't help you unless you help yourself. And I can see now that you're far more adapt to listening, and it's a lonely. I think, what are you kicking on for 40 now?
What did you say?
Are you kicking on for 40? Are you about 38 now?
Yeah, 37.
Right. So You know, you're not getting any younger, so I think if you don't sort it now, mate.
Yeah.
So, but you know what, Gary? It's always a pleasure. I've always got big love for you, mate. Let me know if you need any books sending. And the Paul Sykes film and documentary. It was due to start in September 2020. Obviously, COVID's ruined that. I'm told the last time I spoke to the film people, it's gonna start in May this year. So it's gonna be filmed in Wakefield, Leeds, and Pontefract. We're looking for extras. Would you want to consider being in a Sykesy film or something?
Yeah, I would.
Have you ever thought about going to that path, Gary, or not for you? Acting?
No, I won't be able to act.
Never know, you know.
No, I don't think I would.
So, Richard Brown, is strength training really important in boxing? What would you say, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. Later rounds, it tells them, you can tell them later rounds. Strength and conditioning is really important in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Junior Whitley yesterday, and he said boxing is an extremely dirty business. It's a proper skullduggery, toothpaste, even in amateurs. But what's your view on the pros, Gary? Were you shafted a few times? Were you robbed? And
I robbed him a belt. I won that belt outright. They said my fight against Johansson won a mandatory, but he was.
So is that the reason why you don't own it outright? Because I know you defended it 3 times, so they're saying one of them wasn't for the British.
One of them wasn't a mandatory.
I didn't even know that. I know that you won it and you defended it. I knew that you'd had a couple of fights and you should have done, but it's, you know, there's a lot of people, right? There's a lot of top fighters out there who exceeded British level, but never got. I mean, Wayne Alexander, Ishan Pickering, you know, they all won it. I think they defended it once or twice, but they never ever got to keep it. But you know, at least you can say you won it, mate.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe she's trying to look into that, you know, because that just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, my old coaches, Julian McGowan, he's done a podcast on Porky's Corner.
Right.
Did one this morning.
And was that brought up?
Yeah. My coach can speak a lot better than me, and he was speaking about it, and he told all the facts.
Staggering that, you know. I tell you, if I was you, I'd go to Adam Smith or something, or Robert, you know, the border control or something like that. It's not right. I remember watching that Carl Johansson fight in September 2011. So you beat him. So that's you know, and you that would have got you the free victory, the free defended the title. So I didn't know that myself. Couple of questions, Gary. What's your interest in UFC?
I don't mind it. Conor McGregor got me interested in it. So I like watching it now. Yeah.
Right. You're not really a football person, are you?
I used to be, but when I started boxing took over. Sport Liverpool.
Would you ever consider getting involved in MMA or like that?
No.
Too good looking.
Yeah, but it'd be too old to start a new trade to learn it all moves because there's loads of grappling moves and that.
Do you know what though? Seriously, I've been watching Cobra Kai all week, right? And in my head, I'm thinking I need to grow my long hair back and get a ponytail and join a karate gym at 41. So you never know. But then again, I don't think the karate gyms would be like Cobra Kai, so I'd probably be disappointed. So Richard's asking, who was the hardest you ever hit? Like, who was the one that you ever got hit with? sparring or boxing and just thought, what the fuck was that?
I don't know.
Carl Johansson?
No, probably Gary Buckland in prize fighter.
First fight, he knocked you cold, didn't he? I think you were the favourite as well. And I had a load of people on my house for that. And you come out immaculate, boots, shorts, gown, look the dog's bollocks, suntan, handsome as fuck. And he just come out and absolutely fucking sleeped you, didn't he?
I got up and you can see him mouthing saying, what the fuck happened?
Have you ever spoke to Gary over the years or out like that?
I went down to gym to spar Lee Selby and who were there. So spoke to him then.
Right. And who's the one you've bonded with the most? You know, like you've boxed and you've just fell in love, because obviously when you box with someone, you spend a few rounds punching, you have that kind of bond, don't you?
Probably Femi Faintola.
Yeah, I remember him as a schoolboy. Like, yeah, he was a phenomenal amateur. I just don't think he achieved to his level, you know, in the pros.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that right, Gary? The amateurs and the pros are just like football and rugby. Yes, it's played with the ball, but it's just a total different game.
Yeah, definitely. Just it's about taking your time, these pros.
Yeah, and looking back now. Sorry, go on. One more question. Do you have any? I think we've lost him there, guys. Gary, I'll give you a ring later, mate. Thanks for your time. Big love, brother. God bless.